Hello, sweet souls. This is DTO in the flow. And I'm grateful today because I get to interview and have a conversation with an amazing music producer from Sweden, Måns, and he goes by Songs of Eden. And so, what he is doing is he provides some of the best music for yoga, working out, as well as meditation and yoga music songs to make your yoga practice more exciting. Uh, and he has a huge catalog of music, and this is how we connected because there's a whole tribe, collective of producers that have been called, have been inspired, have been motivated to generate soundscapes that are specifically with the intention to touch, move, and inspire someone when they're on their mat practicing yoga. So if you are out there watching, we inspire you to comment, ask a question, share. I'm also going to ask Måns about the situation in Sweden right now. Of course, right now there's COVID-19, the coronavirus that is a planetary um, issue that is really interesting for a lot of us in different countries. And as many of you know, the amount of friends that we all have globally, it's important that we stay connected, that we here online get to share like what we're going through, what we can do to support one another. And so during this interview, I'd love for you to comment, share, ask a question about the situation in Europe and Sweden. And of course, we send out as much support and healing energies to those people that may be infected by the virus. And so Måns and I, we actually connected through we have this private DM group on Instagram, and this is all about global connectivity and how we can stay connected and thrive. And so Måns is actually my second Swedish house producer I know. I'm really good friends with Stonebridge, and I met him, gosh, about 10 years ago. So it's cool that I'm expanding the network of friends that are producing music in Sweden. And so we created a song collectively, and it is called Mumbai Moves. And I'll put this on the screen right here because we're going to speak a lot about that. And so Mumbai Moves is an entire 7-minute journey that is really, really juicy. So anyone that wants to be on the mat, practice yoga to it. And, it's not just for being on the mat. Like if you're driving your car, if you're in your home, music is music is music, but there is something to say about specifically designing soundscapes for yoga. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Måns live from Sweden. How are you, brother? Great to see you.
Good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing, we're doing and we're being and we're realizing our truth and our potential. And I feel like right now is the time for us to get grounded, where a lot of us are quarantined around the world, where we're kind of, needing to stay indoors based on the circumstances happening on our planet. And yeah, so how are you and your family? I know that when we spoke earlier, there's a lot of beautiful piano music happening in your household. So yeah, how's everything in Sweden and how are you?
Yeah, it's a bit stressful here too, but maybe perhaps not as much as I heard in other countries. I spoke to a lot of friends all over the world, and we
Yeah.
do have some restrictions, but maybe not as tough as you guys. But
Yeah.
the basic restriction is to like people over 70 should not really leave home or be in contact. It's not illegal as it seems to be
Yeah.
in other countries, but yeah, we're
Yeah. I know
worried.
it totally. I think everyone has a concern. And I know in Italy, they're bringing out, um, you know, the police force, military to enforce the fact that people can't leave their homes. And actually, a really amazing cellist that has played on a lot of my music, she's in Sicily, and she said it's a pretty grim situation. And I know recently I read on the news that Spain is starting to feel the pain, and I think the deaths in Italy actually topped all the deaths so far in China. So it's very interesting. And I'm in
Yeah.
California, and the governor basically shut down everything except for uh, grocery stores and necessities. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting time, and for you and I that we connected way before all of this happened. And everything went from zero to crazy in the world. So now it's time to have this launch of this song, and I'll put it on the screen for everyone. Mumbai Moves, and we'll be launching this on the 27th of March, and it'll be available on all platforms. And the intention of us to connect today is to speak about the launch. And this is our first of many collaborations. And
Many to come.
Many to come, absolutely. So anyone that is already a fan of Songs of Eden, fan of myself, DTO, just know, like, when you see your release radar next week, Friday, that you'll see Mumbai Moves. And we highly encourage you. One of our requests during this process of us having a conversation, and I'm going to go through my 5-question interview with you, is for people, when this pops up, you make sure that you pre-save it, and also make sure you add it to your yoga playlist, you share it. And, Himalaya, she's been doing a lot of movement to it. So I tested out with her because she's Punjabi from India. So
Yeah.
I figure if my love is feeling the rhythm and the beats, then it's a winner.
Sounds fantastic.
Right. So let's kick it off. Question number 1.
Yeah.
How long have you been playing the piano?
I've been playing piano basically my whole life. I started out in kindergarten, actually, because there used to be a piano there, and I sneaked into that room, sitting down, finding melodies, and luckily my mom and dad put me in to take piano lessons I think at the age of 9 or so. And my dad said that, yeah, it's a nice hobby, but then my teacher actually said that he's gonna make a living out of this, because he really loves playing. So just prepare for that. And yeah, I've been playing since then. So it's quite some time.
Wonderful. So it's basically, were you classically trained? Did you take a lot of lessons? Did you kind of like intuitively start to play? So take us back to how you, like, the roots.
Yeah, and I never really played too much classical music. I've been more playing in the pop scene and jazz and that kind of thing. So I'm not, honestly, not the best to read notes and stuff like that. But I like to play by ear, and of course I read charts, and but not too complicated. But yeah, I've been, since I left school, I've been like a side man kind of playing with bands, artists here in Sweden since the late 90s or so.
Oh, cool. Here's a great photo I found of you.
Oh,
wonderful. Excellent.
Arty.
Yes, definitely. So you and I have this awesome commonality, because I was born and raised in a household that had a piano, and my mom was playing the piano. And, based on, everything we know about human anatomy, and, and you're a father of 2 children, that when you're in the womb, you can actually begin to hear, you develop your sense of hearing as a human organism around like 12 to 18 weeks. So if you had music playing in your household while your mother was walking around, living life, then you're actually like receiving those frequencies and energy fields at an early young age. And so I'm grateful to share on my own personal account. Big shout out to my mom, who loves to watch all of my Facebook lives, as I was
Hi,
able
Mom.
to. Hey, Mom, how are you? Yeah. And so it was great, because I got to have piano, and then she's a vocal instructor and piano teacher. So there was la 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 la. So I got to hear pitch and frequency and rhythm and cadence, and I got into drums and piano and started playing music. And my parents were both just so gracious, because guess what I was doing? I was playing drums and piano, rocking out with all my friends in the basement, in the garage area of our house. And, they allowed us to do that and really encouraged it. My brother and I, big shout out to my brother, we had a group called the Kempsters, because my last name's Kemp.
Yeah.
And guess what we did? My first gig was, we were playing our first paid gig, I'll say. We played at this like basketball. We played like during halftime and timeouts. So like the cheerleaders would go out and do a cheer to our music. We would play like Back in Black. Dun, da, 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 da-na-na, or Louie Louie or whatever fun music. So I'd love to hear, like, you said that you play with bands and jazz groups. Do you remember your first gig? Like, what was that? Take us back to that.
My first band I played in actually was like a cover band doing Santana music, the music of Santana.
Oh, awesome. I love
When I
Santana.
was around 16, 15, 16 maybe, and I get to go into the pubs and the clubs, and I felt really cool, you know, and those older guys around 30 perhaps.
Oh,
So
that's
that was
awesome.
like the first band, and then I really started to learn about the Latin music. So I started to play in salsa bands and Cuban stuff and all that, and a lot of people actually now when I make yoga music and some of my songs, like the people I get to know from Latin America, they say that they can hear some like influences from the Latin world in the music, which is pretty cool. I'm
Yeah.
not thinking like now I'm gonna make a Latin or whatever. It just comes natural to me because I've been
Yeah.
playing that for so long, you know.
Hombre, es natural, como no.
Claro que sí, claro que sí.
Sí, es muy importante. Okay, so what I want to share with everyone is I was on your website, and it's practice yoga with music. So that
Yeah.
leads me into my next question, which is tying in yoga to your music. So how long have you been practicing yoga? How did you discover yoga?
Yeah, it was it's about 5-6 years maybe. I got the tip from like because I was going a lot to the gym working out and I felt a bit stiff, and someone said, hey, you should try out yoga just as a complement to the normal workout. And I at the first I was a bit skeptic, but then after trying it became an addiction quite fast, you know. So I first I started out with yin yoga just to really have something to complement the workout, to really, you know, stay in the positions for a long time and really work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I've been discovering all types since then, and I honestly I love them all.
Yeah, me too. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So question 3 is, so what inspired you? Was there an actual like aha moment? So as you said, you're playing music for jazz and other styles like Latin. Like what was it that like kind of infused this idea? It's like, oh, I'm a musician. Oh, and I love yoga. Let's put them together and create this.
Yeah. You know, like me, when you're a musician, as soon as you hear music, you start to analyze and listen, and even if you shouldn't, when you're in a yoga class, you can't. But
Totally.
like, what is this drum? What is that? And what kind of music is this? And I started to really dig into that, and started to learn about the artists and getting, you know, like we're into music, so we're curious. And I didn't mention that before, but I've been like working as a musician, but mainly as a producer for the up until a few years ago, basically when the CD started to. So I've been like charting in Japan, Korea, and I had songs on Billboard dance charts and everywhere like 10 years ago. So I've been producing for such a long time, and then when
That's awesome.
I started with like yin yoga, and that is more the like, yeah, you know, the traditional, usually the more traditional kind of music. And then when I went to other classes like the power yoga classes or the Jiva Mukti or something, I started to realize that the playlists or the music they use could be anything. It could be Ed Sheeran, it could be Mozart, it could be whatever. And
Yep.
I started to think, what is really yoga music? And then I thought that why not just try it out to see, as long as I feel that I'm producing and creating something that you can flow to, then why not give it a try? So I started to do a few songs, and then someone told me that, hey man, you gotta be on Instagram, you gotta be, and I've never used those platforms before, and then
That's kind of how we connected, right? Is on Instagram, I think.
yeah.
Yeah. And
And then
also seeing each other on Spotify, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after a while, I just realized that, yeah, there are actually people like you and Tas
Hmm.
Rashid, who is more kind of in a mix in between pop music
Hmm.
and the to while still respecting the tradition, so to say, like this mix that I was really where
Yeah.
I wanted to find my own little spot.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. That's powerful. And that actually, you mentioned Taz. And so here's my next question. Like, who are some of the co-producers on your songs? Let's name some awesome, soul brothers off here.
Yeah, we have, of course, Tas Rashid. We've done a few songs together. And then we have Momentology, who is an awesome guy too, who lives in the
Hmm.
States. And then I've been doing a lot of mantras, like with Surgeon Kaur, who
Hmm.
is a fantastic singer. We did many songs together. And then we
That's
have,
cool.
yeah, so there's quite a lot of awesome people. And it's what I really love that really differs my old life with my new kind of producer life is that, like you, like me, we help each other out, we support each
Yeah.
other, we share ideas, and we
Hmm.
make music together
Totally.
instead of the typical world where I used to be, where it's really like, hey, I'm gonna be on the next Britney Spears album, so
Yeah.
you get out of my way, that kind of.
Yeah. The
And
competitive, right?
I never felt part of that way of thinking. So I really I found my home in a way.
Mm, yeah, I feel you, brother. And I'm grateful for our connection, our collaboration and our friendship, because I really recognize like the bigger conversation, especially in, I think, in all different industries in the world, but in the music industry, it's kind of been like competitive. And actually they make it competitive because they have like a top 40 chart or the top thing and who's number one, who's
Yeah,
number two, and I'm going to beat you, I'm going to get this. And so with musicians like you and I that create and design music for yoga, as we all know, when you're in a class, like it's about your own personal journey and experience. And when you go in
exactly.
deep, then you're going to attract individuals naturally that will say, oh, you're on this journey as well. You're like diving into yourself in a way that is allowing you to have these realizations that, wow, we're all in this together. We can create and design music that will touch, move, and inspire people. So here's a question from Kath. And she says, are there yoga places in Sweden that you love? Are you in Stockholm?
Yes to both of the questions. I live in Stockholm, and yeah, there's tons of awesome studios in Stockholm and in Sweden. And my favorite one is in a little bit north of Stockholm, in like a suburb called Solna,
Hmm.
and it's called Little Peace Yoga. It's a really tiny studio. It could probably be 15 people or something, but I love the atmosphere and the teachers are fantastic. So that's my favorite place in Stockholm.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So I want to also share with everyone before, we were speaking into like who are the people, and I was actually looking at our team of people that are all collaborating or in the midst of collaborating. So here is your page, Songs of Eden, on Spotify. And so as we go through here, one of your highest played songs and most streamed is Don't Worry, Be Happy, right?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
which is the Bobby McFerrin cover.
Wonderful. Can you hear that on your end?
Hardly.
Okay, gotcha. So I just playing a little snippet there.
Yeah.
So as we can see here, and anyone out there that's a yogi or someone that's practicing yoga or the asana practice or any part of the lifestyle. So it looks like a lot of what you're creating, and a lot of people can see this, is all about meditation, going inward, a vinyasa flow. These are some singles. Here's Shangri-La. We have Love and Light. I love Drishti. I love that song. I've played that
Yeah.
many times. That's a big shout out to DJ Taz Rashid.
Yeah.
And
Awesome guy and awesome musician. He's fantastic.
absolutely. Yeah, he has known Himalaya for years. And actually, Himalaya introduced me to Taz. And then later, I did a track with Equanimous. And then Equanimous told me about momentology and Taz and this project, which we're giving a big shout out to. How you and I are, this is the first project we were technically on. Like we were on the same remix album.
Yeah.
And you're the opening song, which is awesome. And then my remix is right here. Let's play a little bit of the opening of that. And as you and I have realized, like piano is our main instrument, but we also, we're creating sounds that have electronic instruments, Eastern instruments, but a lot of it's very piano based. But music is music, so there's all these different ways that we can, design music that is going to particularly create an atmosphere where, like for me, this is how I align our song, and I don't think we've yet talked about it, but in like a vinyasa sequence, I feel like Mumbai Moves, the song we're about to release March 27th, is perfect for like a Sun A, Sun B series because it has that movement.
Yeah.
It's like keeps the rhythm going, has the snaps, has the claps, has just the rhythm, the pulsating, the four on the floor kick, and the BPM is just at that sweet spot
Yeah.
for us to share that.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it could even be used like the first song for a power yoga practice, even, or the last one.
Absolutely, yeah, I love it, and I love the fact that you and I pretty much were able to put it all together. A co-production. You did the artwork, you mastered it, and so it's great. I feel when you're able to, and this is for all of us out there, when I think that this time in the world is giving artists or creatives, and truly maybe people that didn't think they were wanting to express themselves artistically, to be like, oh, what do I want to create with my life? And
Yeah.
what I'm grateful to say is I'm a part of Buddha Music Group, and our intention is raising the vibrations of the planet through art and music. And so similar to what you're doing is we're creating songs that are going to, with the intention, like we don't know for sure, right? It's like you cast a rock out into the pond, and if it makes a ripple effect, and if it arrives and that ripple impacts someone's life, then it's fantastic. And so
Yeah.
what kind of words have you received of like praise, and like what creates for you as an artist? Because I know what it is for me on the receiving end, when people share with you like, oh my gosh, your music is so awesome, I love it, it's wonderful. Do you have any like specific testimonials of someone that really has stayed with you?
Uh, Let me say like that. As I mentioned before, I've been like #1 in Japan, in Korea, and I still do that kind of music. And to totally honest with you, when like a yogi reach out to me on Instagram and say, hey, I used your music today in my practice and I loved it. It really warms my heart. But compared to when a label calls me and say, hey, you're #1 in Korea, and I said, cool, nice. Which it sounds like not intentional to brag or something, but it's really because it's really came from my heart, and something that I created
totally
myself, instead of like getting this formula where when you're working for like labels, they say, can you do this, can you do that? You like, there's 20% corazon in the music, and 80% like structuring it the way they want it. And that's why I feel it's so awesome. It's like when I did the first shell for our new song, I just instantly felt like you're the one. I'm gonna ask you if you want to join on the song, because when I was listening through the remixes from the Taz Rashid album, I felt we got this feeling that this is gonna be the perfect match for this song, and this other artist is gonna be the perfect match for another song. And when you reach out to people like you and Taz and in this community, they're not thinking like they do in the pop world, that hey, okay, what am I gonna win? Is this good for me? Is this good for my business? It's just, I love this song, let's do it.
Yeah, and that's what we were speaking into earlier. Like the old paradigm is competition, and I feel like the new one is collaboration, of how we can all work together, create together. And there's this interesting mathematical equation that people sometimes say, where it's like 1 + 1 = infinity. because it's like there's infinite possibilities when you merge these ideas that are happening on all these instruments that we play. So let's jump right into it. So can we listen to Mumbai Moves? I know you have a studio right next to you.
I do.
Okay, well
That's
I'll let you get set up real fast. So we're gonna see this home studio setup, and we're gonna go behind the scenes. Here he is, going from one room
here I
to the
am.
next. Perfect. Yeah. So anyone that knows music well knows that when you're creating and in your space, you really want to have as much soundproofing as possible, or use their headphones. And so if you look in the studio, he has a whole, there it is right there. That's the man. The dream
Yeah,
studio, especially it's in your
yeah,
home, right?
it is.
All these music producers are salivating right now. They're like, what?
Totally. So here is basically the final mix of the song. Should I play a little piece of it?
Yes. Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Let's see if it wakes up.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
I love our
That's a journey.
co-production. It's a journey. I was just like flying through the cosmos, even though I'm not on my mat having an asana practice. I just, really feel that what my manager said when I sent him to him, and he said is transcendental. That was the word he wrote back.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. And yeah, so anyone out there that loves yoga, that's a manager, instructor, musician, anyone that's in the global yoga community, we're simply two of many pieces of the whole entire, picture of who it is that we're becoming and who we're realizing we are through the ancient wisdom of yoga. And it's really awesome because I similar to what you were saying, I want to reflect back to you is, there's different styles of music that we get to play as artists. And
Yeah.
somehow in this time and space, you and I as Westerners, you being in Sweden, me being in California, like it's a whole different possibility I feel we get to open up to. And then if you think of it similar to the Beatles, like when George Harrison learned how to play the sitar in India, it like revolutionized the world because people are already glued to the Beatles. They had a massive following internationally. And then they started to sprinkle in all this wisdom and, and then of course, and I'm sure, do you have a harmonium? Because I play harmonium.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So if anyone doesn't know, a harmonium is an instrument where, you just push it kind of like an accordion, but a harmonium is from India. And then you get to play, usually has like 2 or 3 octaves, usually 2. And yeah, it's such a beautiful instrument. It has like a drone sound. And it's very similar to like an ohm that you say with your voice. Om.
Yeah.
And so you drone. And yeah, it
That's
really,
that's what I normally use it for. Is like for the ohm in the yoga classes.
absolutely. Yeah.
Because it has a different tuning. It's a bit higher than I think it's 444. So at least my harmonium is. So it's a bit higher in pitch than the piano.
Right. Yeah. I actually have a good friend that he's like the harmonium tuner wizard. He's really well known in Encinitas, which, as you know, the story of Encinitas, California, that's where Yogananda brought from the East to the West the asana practice and the whole philosophy of yoga and the lifestyle and, the 8 branches and the entire, uh, I call it like a cultural phenomenon. Right. And so it's really cool because there's more and more ideas that continually happen for me because I go into the archives. Now, let's just speak directly to the music producers out there. Everyone knows that you have what I call digital dust, right? You have these songs that are in the archives, and you have this whole like, well, someday I'll get to the music. Maybe it'll happen. And, my encouragement and my invitation is, there's opportunity right now, even though there's a lot of trauma and tragedy happening on our planet with COVID-19 and all the precautions we need to take, and unfortunately there's a lot of people that are dying from this, but stay safe, stay healthy, and stay creative, right? Wouldn't
Yeah,
you agree with that?
totally.
Yeah. So do you have so in addition to our song that, as I shared on the screen here, that's launching March 27th on all platforms, and we encourage people to pre-save the song. And what a pre-save campaign is really like a way for you to follow both Songs of Eden as well as myself, DTO, and then you get an email notification when it's launched. So if you prefer Spotify, Apple, Google Play, you just go to that direct link and you can get that information delivered right to you, which it supports the artist. And now more than ever, because I haven't really shared too much about this, but I'm sure you could speak into it as well, brother, where a lot of our gigs have been completely canceled, like our lifeblood, like what we've relied on as
Yeah,
small businesses. So tell us about your situation. Is pretty much everything canceled for you?
yeah. Up until August.
Wow.
Now they're predicting that hopefully this will have an end. So they have like some gigs has come back in for July, I think. But I was supposed to go to the Canary Island for a yoga conference, and then
Mm,
to cruise ships for like more like a spiritual
yeah.
meditation things. That everything is canceled, so it's a tough
Yeah.
time.
Wow.
But
It's
then on the other hand, I try to stay, as you mentioned, that now it's the perfect time to create. And now the last thing I read on the news is that it's really starting to spread in Africa, where they have a big problem with
mm.
like fresh water. And I mean, then suddenly you feel like
Yeah, it's
yeah,
got to be a hardship for people and of
yeah,
course, like there's a shortage of medical supplies, and
yeah,
yeah, so this is a time I feel as well. So for anyone that's watching and listening, either live right now, feel free to comment, ask any questions. Let us know what you're going through, and more than ever, as a musician, I don't know what happened with my ears, but now when I listen to music, it's like I appreciate every single note, every like emotive opportunity that evokes something within my heart. I just go
yeah,
deeper because as artists, obviously, we're sensitive beings, right? Because that's like the nature. Because from a masculine, feminine conversation, which doesn't have anything to do with your gender, it's more about like what emotions that you're feeling into, where music can just take you to this. For example, before you and I started our live stream, Himalaya and I were on a hike in nature, and for some reason, we're like, are there more birds out right now, or are we just finally hearing them for the first time?
yeah,
So that was really powerful to us to just be more awake and alive, just like the
yeah,
the album that we
yeah.
got to collaborate on, right?
No,
Being
I agree.
awake
You
and
get
alive.
more aware of the small details and the things that you should appreciate in life in a
Mm,
situation like this. And what I really hope is that when all this is over, that we will come out stronger and more like a unified Earth, so to speak. So that's
mm.
really, if you can think of something positive, is if you look at Italy, where they go out on the balconies and play together,
Play the
and
piano, yeah,
in
create
Spain
art.
they applaud the hospitals every
Mm.
night at 8 on the balcony. So hopefully in the long run it will make us stronger and more appreciate what we have in life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like in the meantime, it gives opportunity for example, I've been a teacher for many, many years. It's almost, it's my dharma to teach. And I've taught high school, I've taught middle school, I've taught elementary school, and the school where I was teaching part-time, and I teach Spanish, and it's everything, the campus is closed and everything's going virtually and going online. And in
Yeah,
addition to that, I'm teaching people how to make music for meditation and yoga online. I have programs that if anyone's watching right now that you're interested, now's the time, roll up your sleeves, you're home. Yes, you could enjoy other people's art. Like you could sit and watch movies all day, or you could play a video game all day. But my encouragement is also like have a boundary and have a container where you're like, okay, what am I going to create? Like, what is my opportunity to like allow for my soul to express and
yeah,
be awakened in these moments? And I don't know if you've realized this, but I think like through, was it like the 1606 plague, like Shakespeare like wrote all of his amazing works of art, and his
Yeah.
poetry and his everything was pretty much created. So when people go, and I was reading this whole thing, if anyone is interested, just look it up on Google, of like what creations of art and poetry and plays and music were invented and created because of like some world disaster that had people stay indoors. And it was almost like the seed of a tree, like when it's underground, it's like how an acorn becomes an oak tree.
Yeah.
So it's like
Totally.
we're in our root chakras.
Yeah. And also the need of like giving or sharing or helping in any way we can. And I mean, since we're musicians, maybe we can't provide medicine, but we can provide some kind of medicine, which is the music. And that's where I feel I try to think every day, in what way can I help. So I try to do some live sessions on Instagram or Facebook and whatever, and hopefully share some comfort or some like get some peace of mind for someone, just for 10 15 minutes, if that's the least I can do, to try to calm the situation down in a way.
And to breathe. A lot of us, we get tense, and the irony is that this is a virus that impacts the lungs and your ability to actually like feel that health and have a strong immunity system. So remember to breathe. All of us take deep breaths in, and I feel like music personally inspires people to breathe. And that's, and let's speak back into the pre-save campaign, because this song that we're going to be launching, I feel, is one of these opportunities for people. So this is what a pre-save campaign looks like. If you go to our page, if you go to our Instagram, you can pre-save there. So you'll see the artwork. And then here, based on which of these 3 platforms you prefer, you can click and it will sign you up, essentially. See, it has a check mark right there. So now when Mumbai Moves launches on the 27th of March, then you'll get notified of the launch. If you prefer iTunes, you can do iTunes, you can do Google Play. And if anything, mark it in your calendar. Make sure that you're following both of us, not only on our Instagram pages, but on our Spotify. And you can go directly to the pre-save link. And it's, again, like artists that like you and me, like we are out thousands and thousands of projected dollars that we would have made if we would have been able to in person be, sharing our art with others. And right now we're all at home, we're all quarantined. So any support by simply streaming the music would be helpful. And, we'll also put the music on Bandcamp. If anyone still likes to download music, then we could place it there. Or, if anyone enjoys just supporting artists in general, feel free to DM us, and we can share some ways that you could support for us to, cover some of the studio fees that we have to, there's so many things that go behind the scenes. And you and I know this, right? It's like people will just push play on their phone, right? I'll just go through it in my world. I'll just be like, oh, I'm on Spotify. Okay, cool. I'm on Spotify. Push play, boom. I just get the music. It's delivered right to my eardrums. And then you go on with your life. Where what you and I are, like right now, we're like behind the scenes, as you were in the studio earlier, sharing like, okay, it's like the iceberg, right? You see the tip of the iceberg, and then below there's all of this. And musicians that are listening right now, you totally understand what I'm saying. And this is a good opportunity. I want to give a shout out to everyone that is in our DM group. So we have who do we have here? We have 11 Become Yourself 11. We have Heather Christie. We have Kafa. Kafa's doing a remix of one of my tracks right now.
Yeah,
We
he's an
have
awesome producer.
Skinny Limbs.
Man.
Then we have, do you know this guy?
I had no idea.
Oh, and you were mentioning
he's pretty cute.
Yeah, he's a stallion. Oh, here we go. So here's some as you were mentioning. Here's you playing piano.
Yeah, I was doing a little sound check to make sure the sound was working for this little thing.
Nice. So you're doing some live streaming, just like we're live streaming right now. This is a live stream within a live stream. And then another shout out is nuestro amigo, el hombre que
Oh
habla
yeah, yeah,
español como
yeah.
nosotros, T-Loop.
He,
Aquí
Senor
está.
Tony.
Señor Tony, Antonio, ¿qué
He
pasa?
must
¿Qué
be the
onda?
only Cuban guy living in Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah, you could write a book called
Yeah,
The
how to
Only
be a
Cuban Guy.
Cuban in Alaska. Mountains, snow, everything.
Yeah, he's looking for the Wawa, but it's not coming. Okay, then we have Vincent. Awesome.
Yeah, he's
I haven't
fantastic.
connected yet with Vincent, but I have connected with Zen That Beat. So
Yeah,
we're all about what we said earlier, like collaboration and connection. And as you were saying earlier, like to provide music and be of service and be generous, where those people that are going through hard times can feel music and can support them in shifting their energy, because that's what it comes down to for me is when you feel the fear, the pain, the anxiety, and a lot of people that are empaths, when you see what's going on in the news, wouldn't you say like at this point there's information fatigue, where you're
mm,
like, okay, I've heard it all, I don't know, but then the information changes every minute, every hour, every day, every week. So it's like, okay, what do I do next? How can I make sure that I'm um, safe and that I have as many supplies as
yeah,
necessary to, I think in California they're stating like at least have 2 weeks of supplies for food and everything.
yeah,
But yeah, these are interesting times and I'm grateful that you get to share like what's happening in Sweden and like the European perspective. And
yeah.
how many resources, or in general, do you know the percentage of Sweden that is sustainable with energy? Because I know that that's an important part, because you know, with our resources during this time, it's always great to know that you can sustain and grow your food and things of that sort. Is that like a cultural
Yeah,
norm in
they
Sweden?
say that they should that the food supplies shouldn't be a problem, but some things like the toilet paper seems to be a global thing that has run out all over.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
it's
and some
interesting.
stuff like canned food. I don't
Mm.
buy that too much myself, but I just noticed yesterday when I was in the supermarket that all those cans with whatever it is inside of them are totally.
Yeah, those supplies are definitely well. What I
Yeah,
heard, I saw, read this article from a psychologist where it's not like people actually need the amount of toilet paper that they're hoarding. It's there's this psychological like sense of control that people want to have, because when there's a situation in life where it's unknown, it's almost though if you and I were going to go on a hike together, and I were to blindfold you and say like,
yeah,
okay, we're going to go hike, and you don't know the terrain, you don't know if you're going up, if you're going down, you don't know if it's going to rain, if it's going to lightning, if there's going to be a hurricane, if there's going to be an earthquake, you don't know the environment. Of course it allows you to have your like spidey sense and listen and feel and have your intuition, but also because you know the song that we're creating is from, you know, the inspiration of India and Mumbai, where in the Eastern culture, you know, you just clean your behind with your, you know, use water, you know, like it's a whole like
yeah,
basic thing. And so in the West we get so accustomed to needing all these things, and so
yeah,
it's not like a from a, but I get it too. Like when you're scared, you want to like have something that makes you feel secure and safe. So, you know, I empathize with that. And, you know, it's a strange and wild and interesting time that we live in. And, you know, I definitely recognize that musicians like you and myself, and for me being a teacher. Now, have you ever taught music? Have you taught your kids how to play music?
I do. My youngest daughter is playing piano, so I do teach her quite a lot. And I tried twice to become to have like private lessons with two small kids, but they only came once. They never showed up the second time. So I realized that maybe this isn't my thing. I'm doing something wrong here. So I kind of gave that up.
Oh, that's awesome. I want to show a quick photo of you in your element.
Oh
This is
yeah.
great. Where was this at?
This is probably some salsa environment because I can see my good friend Aldrich there. He's a Cuban guy who is an awesome piano player too. He plays with like the biggest bands in from Cuba when they're touring in Europe.
That's awesome.
He's really good. He lives here in Stockholm too. So
Oh, great. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I
yeah,
appreciate our song that we're creating. this whole, campaign right now as we're live streaming in the moment to bring attention to this 7-minute transcendent song, quoting my manager Mark of Buddha Music Group, that
Yeah.
really can deliver some inspiration. I always like to say, even if you don't practice yoga, that it's simply like life enhancing music that can,
Yeah.
like a soundtrack for your life. Doesn't matter what you're doing.
And that's really cool because I get some DMs from people who using the music when they're studying, when they're doing this or when they're doing that, and that's really fun to like expand the options, not to just focus on the yoga scene. So
Totally.
that makes me totally so super happy when someone says, "Oh, I always listen to your piano music when I'm in school or
Oh, that's
whatever."
great. So that
Yeah,
means when they get really good grades and then they go on to, have a very successful profession, they need to like send you like 10% checks, right?
yeah, of course.
Pay it forward. Not playing. But I want to do bring, this is very important, I feel, for artists and musicians, because, clear example for me is in 2016, when I debuted my first album, Nameless Energy. It completely, at the time, CDs, like physical CDs. So anyone that's a millennial, or not a millennial, like a Gen X or Y or Z, like a CD is a compact disc. And
Yeah,
so it's like these physical round objects that you would put inside a machine and then it create music. And so in 2016, I sold about 10,000 CDs, right? That was like what I was able to go through. And then all of a sudden, my second album, because they were in less demand, I think it was like 5,000. And then my most recent album, when we did our big show for Radiant Energy, we had 0 CDs sold because we produced 0 CDs. So remember the good old days where you could sell a CD for $20 or 20
yeah,
euros?
yeah, exactly. That
So
was the way I was making my living like 15 years ago. I was doing music for the whole world, like just writing songs basically. And you could sell sometimes in Japan you could sell like a million copies of a single.
mm.
But those days are gone.
Yeah, so that's my question is, let's talk real quickly about adaptivity, because a lot of musicians are clear that the old paradigm of selling CDs and people valuing music and saying, yeah, I got $20 in my pocket, here it's $20, there is a value and worth exchange for that song. So for me, it's how is it possible now? Like for me personally, I'll just speak into it. I'd love to hear your perspective in Europe. Is in the States, I'm like, okay, I get to focus on touring, gigging, and I had a whole 2020 tour lined up, and everything's pretty much canceled at this point for the next 4 or 5 months, or postponed. We'll see. And then it was like, okay, merchandise, you got to get merch out. And then the next question, which I'd love if we can manifest this in this moment, I'd love this level of abundance, is licensing your music, right? So if a Netflix series, a documentary, a movie, someone that's doing a podcast that wants to create a video online and license our music, then that's also a stream of income for artists and musicians. Is there
Yeah.
something I'm not mentioning that you feel could be added to like ways of creating streams of income?
I haven't really. I mean, there's all this Bandcamp and Patreon and all those things, but I haven't really looked into that too much myself.
Yeah. So for
So
anyone that doesn't know, Patreon is a website where it's basically you create content that's like private for the members, and then they see that value and worth, and so then they'll pay a monthly subscription or
yeah,
a fee to it. And Bandcamp is a business model where they're great. Like they provide the artist 80% of all revenue, and they take 20%, which I think they take 15, but then PayPal takes 5 or whatever percent. But it's a lot higher because on Apple Music, Spotify, some of the streams don't always equate to enough money to have your livelihood. So, in addition to being a musician myself, I'll speak into this. What I've done is I've been a digital marketing coach. I work with companies on branding. I'm also, as I shared, a Spanish teacher. So I have clients I currently work with. I'm sure, hola, I'm sure some of my friends are watching now. ¿Cómo están? Tienen que practicar español, por favor.
sí, cada día, cada día.
Hagan la tarea. Yeah, so
But
Spanish
you
is.
have a real accent. You have like a Spanish accent more than
Oh,
Miami or Latin American accent.
yeah, the cubano. Oye,
Yeah,
el
cubano.
cubano. Yeah.
Habla
He's,
más así, tú sabes que yo
tú
también.
sabes, tú. Calle
Shout out
ocho.
to Tony.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so that's what's interesting too. And I want to speak, you actually inspired me to kind of shift the direction of what I was saying is being multicultural, multilingual, and yoga being an international phenomenon that's just like just grown and expanded. I feel now more than ever because my album Infinite Energy that has 7 songs for 7 chakras, that album has Italian, Spanish, Sanskrit, English.
Yeah.
And my that's what's awesome is the ability to appeal to the masses because there's such diversity on our planet. And so, as you said, your music has been popular and well received in Japan. And by the way, when I was 15 years old, I was playing drums in the marching band at my high
Ah,
school, and I got the opportunity to travel and play in Japan with the marching band.
oh,
And it
that's
was
cool. That's
awesome. Yeah, it was
uh,
fun. It was great. It was back in like 1989, which now seems like forever ago.
a while
um,
ago.
before I had any of these grays and
That would
you have,
scare them off. They
yeah,
don't like that in Japan.
no, yeah, you got to diet or something or shave it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what's interesting, I feel, is like we're able, so the hope, so shifting the conversation from saying, okay, how do musicians make a living? I know, have you seen on your news feed a lot more musicians live streaming and playing their music?
Yeah, quite a lot. And I
Yeah,
also read a lot on Facebook among my musician friends that they have a really hard time.
yeah.
And I mean, like you and me, we at least have the streaming and we have the online thing.
Hmm.
And I have the YouTube channel, which brings in not much, but a little bit of money. And I do produce still for Asia. But for
Yeah.
the musicians that are like 100% living out of live gigs, they have like my friend told me today that he went from 150% of work to 2% of work. He has nothing to do. He had 2 tours
Yeah. Wow.
canceled, and yeah, so it's a tough time. It's a tough time.
It is tough, and I feel that there's an opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves. And for example, I've seen a shift in this, and I know because I know the joke in Sweden is that every other person is a Swedish house producer, right? So,
Yeah.
but seriously, around that is how is it that there's another opportunity for people to, besides, so let's say, have you seen this as well where there's people DJing, right? Where you're playing other people's music and then all of a sudden you start to produce your own music. So then, as you said, then you can get streaming revenue, licensing.
Yeah.
So do you see that happening in Sweden over the last 10, 15 years, more DJs
I
becoming producers?
I haven't really been too much into the DJ, but I used to work in a studio where there was actually like 7 small studios where I was the only one doing pop music, and the rest of them were more into the house scene. And one of the guys told me that nowadays to be a DJ, you almost have to make your own music,
Yeah.
both to make a living and to get the reputation and the
Mm-hmm.
yeah, to get gigs. Basically, you can't just. So we have all this like the Swedish House Mafia and
Yep.
Avicii and all those. They started out as DJs and then started to produce. So I
Yeah,
think it's
absolutely.
hard to just then you can be like perhaps a party or pub club DJ.
Well, and if
In
there's no clubs, if there's no cruises, if there's
yeah,
no uh, venues that are open right now, so that's my interesting conversation I'm having with a lot of music producers is what's the next step. And for me
yeah,
personally, it's, as you've clearly seen on the screen, as I have a whole learning institute where I get to support people on how to make music for meditation and yoga or any style of music they'd like, but I really focus on that genre since that's my specialty. And I'm actually teaming up with a few other producers to design a program where when people are at home, they can learn. And you saw on the screen earlier that Måns has Logic. And if you look in the background here, I have Ableton. And, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like, do you drive a Toyota or Honda? It'll both get you to your destination if you put enough time and energy into it. Even if you have GarageBand, you can create something, right?
totally.
And those are called DAWs, by the way, DAW, which is a digital audio workstation. Sometimes when producers get in a room and talk, it's like talking, a different language, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I always
And
like to,
always talking about your own DAW.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's like a friend of mine said once, because we were like a few friends who were arguing about iPhone or Samsung, and
yeah.
one guy said something that really made total sense, and that was, can't both be good?
Yes, both and, right? It's
Yeah, why
how do
not?
you
Do
well,
you
and
have to choose?
also that's like a first world problem, right? Like if
Yeah,
there's a
totally.
virus and access to clean water, clean food, fresh
Yeah,
food, and then it's like, wait, you're fighting over like whether, your phone is
yeah,
whatever brand. And that goes back to what I was saying. Like there's this competitive old paradigm that I feel personally, I'm kind of like a optimist when it comes to a lot of ways that I feel like this shift or this pause in the world is happening, where maybe we're gonna like go into, as you were saying earlier, like connection, unity, peaceful practices, being kind to one another. Maybe if you're about to say something that's mean and abrasive to someone, or even to say it to yourself, like, oh man, why did I do that? I'm such a F up or something. Maybe it's like, take 3 breaths, listen to Mumbai Moves.
3 times.
3 times, yeah, 3 times only. And then be like, oh, okay, now I'm in a mind, heart space of feeling
Yeah,
connection and want to move your body. And that's another thing we all have to do too, is like move the body. So I feel like our song is coming out at a perfect time to support people
yeah.
that want to just be in their home and be like, I've been stuck on my computer. I've just been, let's talk about this. You're a father. I mean, you have 2 children. Like, what has it been like for you um, to have children in the home while the schools are shut down?
We have actually, we haven't shut down the schools yet in Sweden.
Oh, not yet. Okay.
Just I don't know what, like the high school when you're above 16 or something. Those are
Mm,
closed, but for
okay.
the younger, just because a lot of the parents are like working in healthcare or whatever, so they can't. They
Mm.
are talking about it, but it hasn't been. They haven't done it so far. So
Yeah. Well, I
let's
mean,
see.
let's who knows if it's going to get worse before it gets better or better before it gets worse. I mean,
Yeah,
and I know I'll just share with you what's happening in California is like all the schools are shut down right now.
yeah,
And in Canada, a lot of the schools are shut down because Himalaya is from Canada. So I always get the news from her sister. Um, yeah, it's an interesting time of, and I think I was just reflecting on the fact that, you know, there's an opportunity. So if you have kids and you want to have them learn how to create something in their lives, like maybe work on music or, just
yeah,
start a business online. There's all these ways that I feel like musicians like you and I, as well as simple, like ideas that we may have had when we were a little kid, right? Like as when you're a child, like in the sandbox playing with your friends, you'd be like, one day I'm gonna be an astronaut, or one day I'm gonna be this, or one day I'm gonna, you know, create awesome music, or I'm gonna, whatever it is that you want to dive into and really create in your life. I know for me, as you and I said at the beginning of our live stream, like this is just one of many songs that we're going to produce together. So
definitely.
it's really cool to have you here and for us to share about our process of making music. Oh yeah, Prem just wrote all schools in Canada are shut down right now.
Yeah, and
So
actually, our neighbors like Denmark and Norway, those are shut down. It's basically only Sweden left in Europe.
oh wow,
Yeah,
okay, yeah,
and
so
then they shut the borders down to Denmark, where I come from the south of Sweden, where it's only 10 minutes away from Copenhagen, which is the capital of Denmark.
yeah.
And now you can't enter there as a Swede.
Wow.
So the borders
Yeah.
are closed too. And I can't
Yeah.
come and visit you either. We're not allowed to
Yeah.
travel to US.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you have a lot of connections in the US and California, and maybe you can go to Alaska and see T Loops, our Cuban friend.
Yeah, do some skiing.
Make some cold beats.
Yeah, snow beats.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm so like inspired by how we, even though we're in a different country, different location, the one cool thing that human beings have done in the last 2 to 3 decades is we've designed this infrastructure. So now you and I can be live streaming internationally, you and I can collaborate on a song. And so anyone that's just maybe tuning in now and watching, like we haven't met in person before, right, Mons? It's like
Oh,
first time.
yeah, yeah,
Actually, this is the longest we've actually interfaced. Of course, we've been on WhatsApp and you know, back and forth there. But this is what's really great is even though we're all indoors and you know we're uh, basically inside, we have these opportunities right now to connect and create music and to collaborate. And who's to know what's going to come out of this? It's kind of a one day at a time. But my
yeah,
recommendation to anyone is to stay focused on, you know, who you are, maybe fulfill some of those projects, those dreams, um, whatever it is that you've craved to do. Because you and I both know this, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. In the past, you'd be like, oh, I'd love to do that someday. Someday I'll do that. And I call it the someday syndrome, right? It's
yeah,
almost a disease, like, someday. So you're never fully living your life optimally. You're chasing something and then you're feeling like you're missing out on whatever it is. And usually the excuse is I don't have enough time, right?
yeah.
So
Now we
now
do.
we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And
well,
another thing I wanted to mention is, as you said, like we really got to know each other quite good in such a short amount of time, and that's something that I feel with all the us making yoga music. But I think we should also collaborate with anyone in the family, so to say, in the like teachers, yoga teachers, anybody who's into movement. We could do some really creative stuff and together. I think now is the time for that.
absolutely. So I've seen so many live streaming yoga classes that teachers are offering in studios. By the way, in California, all yoga studios and gyms have shut down. So I have dear friends. Like when I look at my contacts, if I were to just type in yoga, I have like so many people. Because when I meet someone, I usually write in, like if I meet a saxophone player, I put sax. If meet someone, that's so I'll just do this just as an example. If I when I type in just the word yoga on my phone, it's like these are all the people, Nashville, Bliss Yoga, you know,
Yeah.
like Elka Yoga, Amazing Friends, Yoga Instructors, Sedona Yoga Festival, which all the, you know, unfortunately that was postponed. So look at I'm not joking. This is my contacts, like so many people in the yoga world. So this is what you and I are speaking to is if you'd like to create a video on YouTube, if you'd like to make Instagram stories, especially on March 27th, where we have our song Mumbai Moves, we really encourage you to support this song. We'd love to have as many streams as possible and to really get it out there worldwide and have this.
Yeah,
I mean, this moment right now is like our first big announcement about the song. And
exactly.
we wanted to wait to do it when we can both be here to share it and give you a little sample of what Mumbai Moves is all about and the energy and also the energy behind the production of what it came down to, which is, you know, first you created your parts of it, the piano lines, and then I came back and created other key elements, and then we go back and forth, and then we mix it, you master it, we do the artwork. And the next part, of course, we'd love to actually, I mean, maybe we could create this in the moment, right? Since we have so many people that love and practice yoga, maybe
Yeah,
people out there, maybe if you want to do like each person could do like a 15 to 30-second movement and we could just make a collection because it's a 7-minute song. Maybe we could just stitch together all these different amazing, extraordinary global yoga teachers or yoga practitioners or yoga students or anyone that wants to do the asana. And we could have like a showcase of your talent and your skills and really like shine the light on what's possible.
yeah,
What are your thoughts on that?
definitely. That sounds awesome. And I mean, don't hesitate. Any ideas, anyone, just
Mm,
DM us or hit us up on the social media. We're open for any. I mean, basically, we do this music for you guys and for the yoga
mm,
community. So
yeah,
just reach out to us with any questions or ideas, and we're basically open for most of them. I would say to
yeah,
just spread the word and
absolutely.
help each other out.
Completely. Yeah, and it's all about raising the vibrations of the planet through art and music and to bring about a yoga practice. And you know, I'm on the set here, but like can't really turn my camera here, but if I were to see, well, I'll just bring one over. Right here
Yeah.
next to me is guess what? Is right here. I'm sitting on it. a yoga mat, right? So
Ah,
at the yoga towel. So it's like my whole house has been renovated to be like a production set for yoga, and even in this little area behind me, behind the dresser there, there's yoga blocks and yoga straps and yoga. So like, I'm pretty much in my own studio, and you know this too, brother. You're either in the music studio or the yoga studio, and
yeah,
since
basically.
you, yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, how do we merge our worlds together? And then you and I created the song. So if anyone is out there and you want to comment, if you want to DM us, there's so many ways you can reach us to just share those ideas, and let us know. And maybe we could feature you in our music video, because that's one of the things that we're creating. And now that we're all in our homes, just set up a camera, have like really nice lighting, play the song. We can just send you a private link on SoundCloud, so you could listen to the music and do a flow that would have the rhythm, and then we would just put the music on top of it.
Yeah,
And yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, this is what
yeah,
we're here to do. We're all creating in the moment, and we're doing it in real time. And we really feel like this is a country to country, international, one planet. We're all here on earth, and how is it that we can inspire one another and have the opportunity for this time and this interesting era of human history to unfold, where we can be of contribution to others and to create and collaborate. And that's really what inspires me and gets me up every morning, be like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, I have so many cool friends I get to collaborate and play with and have fun with. It's like when you're a kid and you're in the park, right? And you get to see this with your daughters, right? They just like play and have fun, and they just want to like
yeah,
bounce around. And sometimes us adults are like, get too serious, right? Or like, oh, okay,
yeah.
how do we lighten up? And so, as you know, if you practice yoga, it's about, the light, right? Being the light and love and light. That's a lot of people say. And so from there, it's like, yeah, we have our shadows, we have darkness within us, but it's like, how do you like breathe into that and get into the light? And I'm not sure who this Facebook user is, but someone gave us one of these hands up. So let's give them
Yeah.
a hands up right back. Here we go. Whoop, whoop. Awesome. Well, really, really grateful. Do you have any last words to share about Mumbai Moves or anything else that I'd love for you to also promote any other upcoming music that you have.
Yeah, this is the next release I have. Then I have some stuff. I have actually a whole album with only piano music coming
Oh, that's
in
amazing.
early April, which is some
Okay.
songs that have been released as singles and a few new ones.
Okay, great.
And I call it Evening Meditations.
Okay, great. Let me put
Yeah,
that on the screen. You're going to put your Spotify up there. So that'll be coming up. So anyone that uses Spotify, it'll just be here under the albums.
yeah,
That's great. And if anyone hasn't followed me on Spotify yet, here is DTO. That means down to ohm. And you don't see the numbers right here, but breath, actually, I'd have to look. This may be the moment to share this, since we're both here. I'll have to check. But before I went to bed last night, sometimes you don't want to always check your numbers. It's kind of like a bad habit. Like if you don't want to always check your weight. You know what I'm saying? Because
exactly.
then you kind of like jinx yourself, or you just make it. You get too fixated on it, right? So,
Yeah,
but
or
let
how
me.
or how high your downward facing dog is.
Yeah, exactly. You just like be in the practice. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. So let me share this with everyone. I'll put my screen up here. So I went to bed last night and breath was at 499.
Yay!
So this is the announcement. So my highest stream song just hit 500,000 streams, and
That's
really
awesome,
grateful to
bro.
share with you. And so yeah, it's at DTO. Um, gosh, that feels good.
Yeah, fantastic news, man.
Yeah, it's like waking up the morning of your birthday and you're like, oh, I got a gift. Um, so that's fun, and it's really about what you were saying. It's not about me. It's not about Songs of Eden. It's not about DTO, Buddha Music Group, or any of us artists that are creating music. It's more about how you, as the individual, as the listener of the content and the music and the art that we're creating, like how is it that you can receive the music, share the music, and the best thing you could do is put it in a playlist, um, add it to a video, reach out to us. Of course, you're going to do that. So you get like licensing permission, and we can talk about that later. But nevertheless, it's like, if we were to just, it's like that classic thing. If a tree falls in the woods and no one's there, does it make a sound? So the same thing for us. Like
Yeah.
if Mumbai Moves launches and no one knows about it, does it get any streams?
I
the
love
modern
that.
the modern day riddle.
Yeah.
So that's what's great for us is we get to share internationally. We get to connect with our DM team on Instagram, and as we're both willing and open. And if you have any practice that you have for breath work that you would, we encourage you to listen to our catalog of music, because between the both of us, we probably have like, I don't know, 80 songs or something, right?
Yeah, quite a lot.
Quite a lot. And that's just us. And then we just talk about our remixes and other collaborators and so many people that are creating music in the genre of music we make. So yeah, and if you're a music producer out there and you want to work with us, then the limitations have been completely like vanishing over time, right? In the past, you'd have to in person be in the studio, you'd have to record with that person, you'd have like a studio musician in the same studio at the same time, you'd have to pay for, studio time. Now it's like record from your home, send me what you made, here's what I have, and you go back and forth, you just Dropbox everything back and forth.
Exactly.
We're in the cloud, right? And so
Yeah.
that's what's great is to share. And if any songs that you'd like to have, who knows, maybe from this conversation there's a remix producer that's heard the song and they're like, hey, I want to create something from this. So we're
That
open
would be
to all of
fantastic.
it.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Totally. Yeah, you
I
never
love
know.
that idea.
For sure. Awesome. We'll send tons of high vibes and good energy from my heart to you and your family.
Yeah.
And I love that your home is just filled with piano playing. That completely inspires me. And
Yeah.
music is,
It's
and what a wonderful father you are to bring the power and the magic of music to your family. And it's
yeah.
such a great thing. And they're in the studio sometimes too with you, right? Listening to music.
Yeah, we record some stuff together too, actually. So it's
Oh,
like
that's
some
awesome.
child songs, and the youngest one, who is the one who is most interested in music, she writes some her own songs. So we did a few of those too.
Oh, that's awesome.
All about unicorns and ice creams and stuff like that.
Aren't those the most important things in life, though, when it comes down to it, for a
True.
child, right?
Yeah.
Right.
For me
Either,
too. I love unicorns. I just
yeah.
kidding.
Unicornios. Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you're that young child, and there's so much that music can bring to children, and I feel it's really important. And so that's another thing too. We encourage those parents that your kids are home at school, like to really give them an opportunity to create music or listen to really inspirational music, or when they're studying. Okay, kids, make sure you're studying. Just because there's no school doesn't mean you're not going to learn, right? You got to be a lifelong learner, right? Like we're learning all the time. And as a music producer, it's like, oh, what's this plugin, and how am I going to add this sound, and oh, what's that cool sound design I heard from someone else, and that really inspires me to do this, and or hey, someone's going to remix my track, or hey, I got this idea, you got this idea, let's like boom, merge it together. So that's truly what Mumbai Moves is right? It's the movement of you and I discovering yoga in our own individual journeys and our paths, and then us saying, all right, let's have us as the opportunity individually to create music for yoga. Then it's like these yogi producers just kind of electromagnetically find each other, which we did through internet and all the ways we find each other online. And now it's like, okay, we created the song, we get to share it with the world, and it's launching March 27th. We inspire you to pre-save it, share it, and share this interview. You can put comments if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, and ask any questions you'd like, and reach out in all the ways that we've invited you to. So thank you so much, and I can't wait for the 27th, brother. Yes.
Yeah, me neither. It's going to be awesome, man.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, take care.
There it is. Mumbai Moves. Take care.
There it is.